And we're back. Welcome to this week's episode of Trav Chats. I, I'm just going to dive right into it. No formal introductions this week because it has just been an amazing 24 hours. George, I know you're feeling the same right now.
Oh, man, yeah, I had a really hard time going to bed last night. Just with the delay of game and how late it got, the adrenaline rush really kind of had me going, and so it was a tough night sleep-wise for me, but, totally worth it. Totally worth it.
Yeah, I mean, you know, last night against, the Kittens from Orlando, it is one of those games that you have a hard time going to bed afterwards because everything that could have went right. It was a physical fun affair, and then you, know, you just you walk away with the win too. And I think I spent until at least 1:30 or 2 in the morning just shit talking Orlando fans, and I gotta admit, not a lot of things in this world make me happier than doing that.
If I didn't have to get up and do my real world job very early this morning, I think I put something out there that on Twitter last night that my night would have been very similar to that. I just would have been whatever the opposite of doom scrolling is. That's what I would have been doing last night. Because it was fun. It was the banter back and forth, leading up to the match with Orlando fans um, was fun, and then going out and exposing steaming cold takes for what they were immediately afterward was also fun.
Yeah, exactly. And to recap last night, Miami comes out of the gate hot, and within 7 minutes has a goal courtesy of probably the best assist of the season from Robert Taylor to find Messi's chest just absolutely perfectly as he made a run to the area. And then Messi from 6 yards out, he's not making any mistake. He absolutely smashed it home past Pedro Glace. And then, the rest of that first half, Orlando responded about 10 minutes later, and it then became a chippy, physical affair. Lionel Messi got booked for a retaliatory challenge. Uh, Leo Messi threw a hip check. There was mass confrontations. There was shit talk. Arguably one of the most entertaining first halves this season. Oh, George, what did you take out of that first half last night?
Well, I mean, generally speaking, I agree, right? Like it this rivalry really felt like a rivalry last night. And, it has kind of felt that way in the past, but last night it felt real. Like the physicality, the shithousery, like all of it was amped up to 11. And it was, especially in that first half, the back and forth, the tone setting that Orlando was trying to do by doing exactly the opposite of what Atlanta did, which was be physical with Leo, make him uncomfortable, nip at his heels, push him around, and he responded. And he responded, and he has lost his head at times, throughout his career, but you saw that he was taking this rivalry seriously. And you saw that very early on with his intensity, how he was looking at other players, how the team was rallying around him in those moments of confrontation. And, like, that shows if you weren't convinced that he was bought in to this project and bought into winning here in the MLS, last night was the proof that would have been the last bit of evidence that you needed. That he was going to be physical, he was going to respond, he was going to raise his game in a lot of ways. I mean, um, you know, to go into like the match more detail wise, I think Orlando came out with a really solid game plan. They sat back, they pressed at times, but really they focused on keeping their defensive shape, which meant, a lot of what we've seen at points and times in the season, which is, the defense passing along the back line, trying to find spaces, waiting for people to make runs or get into a gap that they could slide a ball into to break that first line. Um, and Orlando was really successful at doing that really all night. And they kept their shape, and they had a game plan and they were executing it. But as we know, as the result shows that even playing that game and doing it well, they still were subjected to moments of brilliance, and one little misstep and loss of focus cost them on both of Leo's goals in particular, and then on a couple of other opportunities that there were in that first half. The shot that hits the post, the free kick. There were moments in that game that that could have really put this thing further away than what the ending scoreline was. Um, but yeah, overall, I mean, I really enjoyed it, and I thought both teams played really, really well, and were totally bought in. And I'm glad to be on the winning side of it. But overall, I mean, a hat tip to Orlando and to their fans for coming out. Um, but yeah, it's nice. It was a really good match, and that first half was really enjoyable to watch, with the tone setting.
Yeah, I mean, I fully agree. I think Orlando came out with a good game plan. Their game plan was to make sure that anytime Leo Messi and Sergio Busquets got the ball, they had at least two players immediately on them, kicking their shins, kicking their heels, and just beating the shit out of them to try and anger them. And in fairness, it worked with Leo Messi in that first half. He was incensed when he was leaving the field and gave it to Cesar Arujo all the way to the locker room. But at the same time, it feels like it backfired because in the second half, Messi came out a little bit calmer and said, "Okay, you guys want to play like this? Well, watch what I can do." And, he got his second goal off a brilliant ball that he played to Robert Taylor. Taylor then played in Josef, who laid off Messi, who, again, 6 yards in front of goal. If you're leaving the best player arguably ever, alone in front of the net, he's going to score 10 times, out of 10. And that's exactly what he did. And, we can discuss the penalty call, which is subject to every sort of argument there is right now. But in my view, and as a referee, it's a penalty. Uh, you run the risk when you go grabbing in the area, and a foul, if it's a foul in the area, is a foul and a penalty. It's as simple as that. That same exact foul, if committed anywhere else on the pitch, would have been called as a foul. Was it soft? Yes. But at the same time, a foul is a foul, and in the area, it's a penalty. So, good penalty call by the, I believe, Honduran referee.
Yeah, I mean, to kind of just touch on the penalty call and kind of put it to bed because I don't really want to dwell on it, but I mean, you said it perfectly. It was soft, but we've been victims of soft pens against us, and this one just kind of went our way. But the reality is that that call didn't turn the game on its head. It's not as though the momentum shift felt, at least from my perspective, that that goal really kind of tilted the field in a certain direction. The tilt had already happened. The through the through after Orlando scored their goal to tie the match in the first half, the field tilt went in Miami's favor from that point forward, and really throughout the rest of the match. Like, we were better in possession, we were better in regaining possession, and they weren't creating any real opportunities to be dangerous or threatening, um, outside of like really kind of low chance opportunities, and they were few and far between. And so I just don't feel that the pen in and of itself was such a monumental moment in the game, especially when you consider that, you know, the goal that if the pen didn't exist, the goal that is scored that you already described, which ultimately comes down to a 3-on-6, three Miami attackers with six Orlando defenders retreating into space and just losing both first Joseph, who then plays the ball back into Messi, but losing those two guys in the box with four defenders around them. That's inexcusable defense, and with numbers like that, like you got to be better. And so that's the moment. That was the dagger. That was when the game was truly over. And whether it was 1-1 or 2-1, I don't think Orlando necessarily comes back from that. But that play, you know, from the jump, when Messi plays the ball out to Taylor, I chuckled because I was like, I can see where this is going. And when it took Taylor out wide, I was like, oh, maybe this isn't going to be as threatening as I thought it was initially. And sure enough, the pattern of play just you know bing bang goal. It was basically defense retreating, giving everybody space and time, and it was just easy. It was almost comically easy. Um, so yeah, I mean those two moments, while important, I really value the third goal more so than the penalty as far as the game stakes.
Yeah, I mean, I fully agree. I think that Miami was very well in control of that match for long stretches and long portions of it. And it very, Miami very easily could have had more. And, came down to they didn't, but very easily could have. And, that penalty wasn't the difference between, Orlando winning or losing that match. Miami was in control and would have, with the way they were playing, they would have eked out another goal and that third goal, probably one way or another.
I
But
agree. I agree.
more on last night. We saw two new debuts last night. The debuts of Jordi Alba and Diego Gomez. And George, you want to touch on? I'll let you start with Jordi Alba.
Yeah, so, Jordi Alba came in, and looked like, I mean, I wasn't there in person, so I was watching the broadcast. Um, and I don't know, Trav, if you were able to catch the broadcast today, but throughout the first half, the camera kept cutting to Jordi Alba, and you could see, he's up out of his seat. He's yelling either at Tata or at players on the field, like getting people's attention. He was completely invested and he was ready to go. And so I was actually surprised that he didn't come in sooner than he did. But once he did, I thought he looked great. Settled into the game really quickly, made some really nice passes from the touchline, into the center, splitting some defenders, finding a midfielder in tight spaces, making some runs. He wasn't dangerous necessarily. There were no moments of brilliance as far as his attacking play. It was limited minutes. He's only been training with the team for a few days, but you could really see his quality, and you could already see the kind of the connection that he has with Busquets and with Messi, because they were finding each other very quickly um, once Alba stepped on the field. And so, few more days of practice, and I think that he's probably going to be a no doubt starter come this weekend's match. I don't think he appeared to be lacking in fitness in any kind of way. Will he go 90? Probably not, but I could definitely see him starting over Noah Allen, come this weekend's game, because he looked ready to go in the first half, and was really into the match.
Yeah, I do think that Jordy starts over Noah on Sunday. I wouldn't put all of my money on it just yet, just to see if he can get a little bit more fit. And, he brings something different than Noah, and that's that late game, run up the left side deep. He can connect to the long balls or he can deliver them. So, I think he's a great option to have off the bench until he's 100% fit. But, I could also see him starting, going, 60 or 70 minutes, and then Noah Allen coming on because, just like Messi and Busquets, I don't think that by that second match he'll be 100% there yet, especially since we're playing in Dallas. And if you think South Florida's hot, the high in Dallas on Sunday is 105. So,
Yeah, and it's a different kind of heat. It's different than South Florida heat, for those uninitiated.
and it's certainly it's no Spain for Jordi Alba. So, oh, I do see him probably starting, but only going 60 or 70 minutes. And then Noah Allen stepping on the pitch, who's stepped up very well and, done the job very well there at left back since Franco Negri went down.
Yeah, I mean, we gotta give Noah his flowers. And Benja, who I think we should talk about, and we'll talk about him next. But Noah has been playing extremely well. You're not noticing him for mistakes. He's getting involved. He's seems to be confident. Doesn't seem to be have any kind of nerves about him anymore. And has been playing really well. And you can see that his development is really starting to accelerate. And so I know some people worry about, with all of these moves that, guys like Noah and Benja and David are going to, take steps back, but they're getting replaced by guys that are just of such a high caliber that there's no arguing that they're going to benefit just by being in training with them. And so the game experience and the game stakes aspect of it, they've gotten a lot of experience really early on, and they're going to continue to get their shots. They're just not going to be relied on anymore. And I think that that ultimately is going to be for their benefit and the team's benefit, developmentally. One more thing about Jordy, though, what was immediately apparent was that the pace of play and the connections, those connections between him and Busquets and Leo, like that triangle, they know because they know each other so well and technically are so proficient. Um, that the speed of play between them was really impressive. There's no hesitation when one of them is passing to the other, on a with one touch. And when you take one of them off of the field or take them out of a triangle, that third person, there's always going to be a little bit of a delay. They're not going to play the next pass necessarily as quickly or as intuitively. And so watching that develop, um, with a broader sample size, I think is going to be really fun to watch, especially on that left hand side. If Robert Taylor continues to do Robert Taylor things, I think that whole left side is going to become a very dominant half of the field for this team.
Yeah, and I think, the biggest question is, do you play Sergio Busquets on that left side where he can be part of that Robert Taylor, Jordi Alba triangle, or do you keep him on the right side with Leo Messi, where he can combine with Messi and Yedlin to form a triangle on that side? And if you ask me, I think that for now you keep him on that right side where he can combine with Messi and ideally draw defenders and draw players over to that side so that you can give the other side with a Jordi and then either Benha or Diego Gomez the space to do their thing because teams will become hyper occupied with Leo Messi and Sergio Busquets.
Absolutely. And one of the things I really noticed was that, while we talk about the left and right hand side, when we're talking about Busquets and Messi in particular, that's that's all kind of squishy terminology because they both really do have the freedom to move and be, especially Messi, be positionless. I mean, Messi was, had was is the right-sided, attacking winger, but I mean, he was dropped back deep in the left hand on the left-hand side of the pitch, and especially in the towards the end of that first half to retrieve balls and to open up space. He was moving all over the pitch, and what you were seeing was everyone else having to respond to the decisions he was making on the pitch. particularly Benja. When Messi wants to move somewhere, Benja was the one that was responsible for filling in that gap and in that space on the attacking third. And if it was deeper, if he was moving into deeper positions, then Dixon Arroyo was the one that was moving to kind of cover for him or Busquets, depending on where those two guys were moving. So I mean, those two have so much flexibility positionally that you know I think that the field with Jordi Alba now is going to tilt more towards the left to give them those patterns of play. Um, but you could see that the coverage and the work is really being put in by the other players to cover those gaps when that happens.
Yeah, and I mean, you mentioned the work of other players, and the first one that comes to mind for me from last night is Benjamin Kramaski, and you know, Benha had a great chance in the first half to get himself a goal, and then he set up the ball into the area that led to the Joseph foul and then eventual PK goal. So I think Benha is just continuing to cement his place in this squad, even as a player like Diego Gomez, who's young and has a ton of promise. And he showed what he brings last night, and he showed that he came on. He's extremely quick. He can cover a lot of ground. He's up the field. He's down the field. He's everywhere. And he's not afraid to put in a challenge to stop an attack if he needs to. So, I think right now, if you're looking at the midfield, it's going to be Benha against Gomez for that spot. And you really can't go wrong because Benha is playing probably the best he's ever played. And Diego Gomez is, if he calms down, which is my biggest criticism of him from last night, then you turn around, you're looking at just this insane workhorse midfield that will provide coverage for Leo Messi and Sergio Busquets.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the kids are just showing so much. And, we saw with Noah when he made his initial appearance, what was it, last season in the first game. You could see that the kid has it. He just needs time, right? He needs time to grow and develop into a professional, body for one, but also into the professional game. Benha, was the same thing early on. And I know you were a big cheerleader for him, from the jump and very excited about him. And I didn't have the same level of exposure that you did, but I could see the talent. I could see the physical gifts are there. He's really showing that he is he is taking the next step. He has had good games, he has had bad games, he has had games where, he's been, a little bit like he disappears from, since he came off in the Cruz Azul game, and so Atlanta and last night, he is showing that like he is really stepping up um, his skill set and buying in and is excited and he's doing the work. And I couldn't be happier for the kid. Couldn't be happy for all of the kids on this team to have this experience. But Benha really is showing that that real superstar potential at 18 years old. And he had a great chance. He had that the nice through ball into Joseph, like you said. But the he comes off, he came off in what, about the 75th minute last night, with Diego Gomez coming on. And let me tell you, I was impressed with Diego Gomez. Um, first off, I was impressed because I didn't realize how big he was. But second off, he came in, he was nervous, got that yellow, but man, once he settled into the game, he really was everywhere. And picking off passes. I mean, he would be in the defensive third, and all of a sudden he's in the attacking third. And it's like, wait, how did that guy get there? And he's just kind of floating and finding space. And I'm really excited to see more from him because it's an element he has, like kind of that Gregory-esque ability to kind of like appear in the right place at the right time in the defensive third. But then he has also the ability to extend into the attacking third. And, kid looks like a player. and he looks really, really good, and I'm excited about that too.
Yeah, Diego Gomez, just seeing him, and especially as he calmed down, he really excites me. And he's the type of player that Miami is going to need. He is a quintessential workhorse. He's going to cover as much of the field as humanly possible, and he's going to do so while putting in a challenge, making a pass, making runs into the area, so on and so forth. So he really excites me. I love his blue boots because you can call him out from a mile and a half away. And, like you mentioned, he's massive. I mean, I did not think he was as big as he is. And seeing him on the pitch last night, he truly is massive. And it's just such a great pickup by Chris Henderson to have joined this squad. And especially as, Miami did add, three players that may at times be a little bit, more lazy because they can afford to be because of their IQ. So it's going to be very interesting to see if Diego Gomez can unseat a player like Benjamin Kramaski for a starting spot right now.
And the really, the benefit of seeing him last night and seeing him play well, and the nerves aside, is that you're like, oh wait, this team does feel like it has true depth now. I mean, Noah comes off and is replaced by Jordi Alba, and like we've already said, Noah didn't put a foot wrong last night. But now it's being set up that Noah is going to be the one that ultimately, most likely is going to be backing up Jordi, and that's great. That's great. That's great for Noah's development. That's great for the team. But now you have competition in the midfield with Gomez, Benha, David Ruiz, Arroyo. If when Gregory comes back, like all those five guys are going to be they're going to be tussling for the two other spots besides Busquets. And that's going to be really good for the depth of this team because you saw both Gomez and Ruiz come on and both play pretty well. Um, and one of the things I think about Gomez is that he seems like he can be a utility knife. He doesn't have to come in and replace Benja, or it doesn't have to be one or the other. He could be the kind of player that comes in and replaces an Arroyo, that, depending on the game stakes, will give you enough defensive solidity, and workhorse, will run for days, will put in those tackles, but can also, you can rein him in and say, we need you to step back and to protect this back line a little bit more. He clearly has the ability to do that. Um, but he also has the flexibility to play more advanced. And so, that kind of flexibility at what is obvious as far as his talent level on a team like this, that's just a whole nother layer and dimension to um for Tata to work with, and that we as fans of this club haven't seen. We're used to guys playing in their positions or being square peg round hole, like Robert Taylor playing as a wing back and things of that nature from you know coaching staffs of the past. But in this era now, it feels like the depth has the flexibility to do this, but also we have good positional depth that we can feel secure about the number one, the number two, the number three in some positions, that like these guys could be starting quality, and we're not used to that at all.
Yeah, I mean, I fully agree. And, that depth is only going to grow as Facundo Farias arrives and gets his visa and gets some training. And the same for, Thomas Alves. So, truly, for the first time ever, Miami has true depth at pretty much every single position. And it's just such a fantastic thing to see. And, now to experience with you know, you know, taking off a Benjamin Kramaski and putting on a Diego Gomez, or taking off a Dixon Arroyo and putting on a David Ruiz, or in time a Thomas Alves, or so on and so forth. So it's really exciting to finally see true depth like this throughout the entire squad. But on that note, speaking of depth, Miami may start needing this depth as the schedule gets closer and closer. Miami now plays in only 3 more days in Dallas, Texas, against Dallas FC uh, for the League's Cup round of 16. And, Dallas came from behind. Dallas went up against Mazatlan and took a 1-0 lead early in the second half. Mazatlan responded, tied at 1-1, and then Dallas took the lead and held on for dear life for the last about 15 to 20 minutes of the match. So this is a Dallas team that, historically has been good in MLS. They have Jesus Ferreira, Paxton Pamacal, a couple of really good players, including Martin Pass and net. But at the same time, this is Miami, and Lionel Messi were unbeaten since Messi's arrived, and no team has been able to figure us out for 90 minutes yet. So what are you expecting on Sunday against FC Dallas?
So, kind of where I want to start is going to be rewinding back to the match against Dallas early in the season. And I have not gone back and rewatched that game, but from my pure recollection was they gave us the ball the entire game and just killed us on the counterattack. And that's how we lost that game. That they basically bunkered and let us pass it amongst ourselves in the middle third of their zone. And as soon as there was a turnover, they were flipping it and exploding down the wing. And that's where they created their opportunities. I cannot imagine that this game is going to look anything like that. Um, it might as well be that these two teams have never met this season or ever in their collective histories, because this team is so different from that team that they played and that they beat, um, that they might as well just not even they might as well just throw away whatever the playbook was, whatever the tape was. Doesn't matter who on this team played in that match. Um, and this is going to have to be from scratch. It's I haven't seen a lot of Dallas this season. Really outside of that game, and knowing, knowing how good Paxton Pomacall is and Jesus Ferreira, but I don't follow them very closely and haven't followed them very closely. So I really don't know what to expect. And so that's why I wanted to start by going back in time uh, to the dog days of this season and kind of reliving that moment, because that's my impression of them. And that's admittedly limited, and not as, well thought out and articulate as I usually am on these things, or at least I try to be. But yeah, I mean, they've got players and they're going to be a sturdy test. I'm not convinced that they are better necessarily man for man than Orlando. Um, but yeah, I mean, the weather is going to be a factor. Playing on the road for the first time for this team is definitely going to be a factor, and it's going to be interesting to see how the club responds.
Well, and the playing on the road is, for me, probably one of the most interesting points, and will be one of the most interesting things about this match. This is the first time that Leo Messi, Sergio Busquets, Jordi Alba will play on the road in MLS. This match sold out in less than, I think it was 9 minutes. It's sold out, and tickets are now available for resale as high as $9,000. So it's going to be really interesting to see the crowd in Dallas and how much of it is, FC Dallas fans, how many of them are, Messi fans in there for Messi. So, for me, this is the first real test of that theory throughout MLS of, does Messi draw stadiums full of fans? We knew the answer was going to be yes, but how does it affect, any team's home field advantage? So that's, probably going to be one of the most interesting parts of this match to me.
Yeah, Yeah, I mean, Dallas has, I mean, they're one of the original six teams, I mean, you go all the way back to the burn and the history that is emblazoned on their shirt, although kind of silly, it's kind of silly if you ask me for this season. Um, but I mean, they've got a very long history, and the reality is that you know they've got a substantial fan base. They would have been contracted if they weren't able to support in that market. And so the question is as you put it, who shows out? Is it going to be 60-40, you know Dallas fans with Messi fans, or is it going to be 80-20? What's the environment going to be like? Is it going to be hostile? Is it going to be celebratory? Just don't know. And that is going to be one of the fascinating questions. If this were, say, Cincinnati, I can tell you for sure it would be hostile. I'm just not sure if Dallas is going to feel that way. Um, but yeah, I mean, environmentally, that heat index is going to be massive, and I don't think we have a kickoff time yet. I assume it would be 7 or 8 o'clock local time there, which would be about 8-9 o'clock here on the East Coast. So let's. I don't know. I really don't know, Trav. This it's going to be an interesting one to observe, and hopefully we come out on top.
Yeah, I feel confident for Miami going there. I think that, Dallas is going to look at our past three games and try and take notes. But at the same time, you can take notes from these games against Atlanta and Cruz Azul and Orlando. And, the issue is with those notes that at the end of the day, the result in all three of those matches was the same for our opponent. They lost. So it'll be interesting to see what they take from those and what they learn and use potentially against Miami in this match.
Let me ask you this. So, given what we're seeing in Leagues Cup generally and specifically for Inter, what you know, we talked last week about like kind of what would you tactically do to try and defend this team? And I think we were at the consensus that you know basically to do exactly what Orlando did. Pressure Messi, pressure Busquets, don't give them any space, annoy them, pester them, that kind of stuff. Yet that has not worked, right? Atlanta tried giving them space, definitely didn't work. Orlando gave them, was on top of them, and they still got beat by individual moments of brilliance. What's the next thing that is going to be a point of confrontation for this team to overcome or to challenge them that puts us potentially in a really in a situation that's a real deficit for us? Is it purely elevating the talent that we're playing against, or is there another tactical wrinkle that you think would that we might need to adjust for?
I think that Orlando was on the right track, but how they went about it was wrong. Now, if your whole game plan is, every single time they touch the ball, have two players or three players surround them and just beat the shit out of them, the issue with that is then you're going to leave other players open. And, space was given to Robert Taylor and space was given to Ben Hamid Kamaski and other players. So, while it's a good idea in theory, it fails because it gives other players who are proving to be just as dangerous extra space for them to work in. So what I would do is refine it a bit. Choose one guy in your midfield to stick on Busquets, one guy in your midfield to stick on Leo Messi, and tell them that their job is to literally anytime they're within a foot of them, grab their shirt, kick their shins, kick their ankles, remind them that they're there, and don't let them out of their sight. And I think if you do that, you can, effectively make life very hard for them. And, we saw against Orlando, you can get under Messi's skin. The question is, when is he going to bite back? And how is he going to bite back against you? So, I think that if a team like Orlando can decide, oh, we're going to put one player on Leo Messi and one player on Sergio Busquets, and their job is to do nothing but, beat the shit out of them anytime they touch the ball and annoy them all match, then I think there's a better chance of, potentially shutting down those two players for the match.
Yeah, and I think the other component, the one that I'm most interested in seeing and kind of exploring is when the talent deficit across the pitch isn't as great, where we play a team that, from, across the pitch is more talented than the opposition that we've faced so far. So, Pumas, Club America, like, these upper echelon, top tier Mexican sides don't that don't get rattled when they play a St. Louis and puts them under pressure. A team that can create for themselves, that can control the game stakes themselves. I'm really interested to see how this team responds in a match like that, where maybe a team like that doesn't feel like they need to take the tactic you know, of pinching in and man marking so concretely on Messi and Busquets, but rather systematically feels so confident in the skill set of their 11 that they're going to try and play their game and are tactically proficient enough and skilled enough to at times dictate pace of play. And I'm really curious to see when that happens because that does kind of scare me because, you know, while we have a talented team, our talent is, very top heavy, yeah, at the pinnacle and then, it flows down from there and and it's not that, our 11 isn't that talented outside of, Messi and Busquets and Jordi Alba. It's that, broadly speaking, there is a gap between those levels. And so when you can narrow that gap, you create a stronger team. And I think that that's what those top Mexican teams actually represent is a more cohesive, talent rich, you know, individual player as a unit. And that's when I think that this team may find themselves on the back foot. I don't think Dallas presents that problem, but I think that that's something I am looking for as far as, you know, down the road if we progress in this tournament further that's the kind of thing that I want to really assess this team against.
Yeah, I fully agree. I think that it, right now it is a talent gap. Miami hasn't faced a team so far that is arguably on the level that they've now put themselves on. So it'll be interesting to see, if Miami comes up against a Club America, a Monterrey, or another one of these top level Mexican sides, how they're able to react to a team that's arguably more on their level talent wise. So it'll be really interesting to see that throughout the remainder of this tournament. But speaking of this match, I gotta know, what are you thinking? What's your score prediction?
Man, nobody's suspended, right?
No, Chris McVeigh's back.
So McVay's back. We didn't. No one went down with any injuries. I'm just trying to think of any kind of wrinkles in the lineup. So the only, I can only see two potential changes in the starting 11 then. And, those would be, you know, Alba for Noah and Gomez for Benja. Um, I think we will see one of those two guys start. I just don't know which one. Um, Most likely it would be in my mind, I think it would be Jordi Alba. So I don't know. I think a 3-1, 3-0 Miami win on the road um, feels likely. Probably another messy brace with Taylor getting one. Um, but I would really like to see Leo Campana, poach one in the second half. Uh, off of a messy feed. I think that's what I would like to see most. But I think we're looking 3-0, 3-1, something like that.
I can feel that. Don Cafecito, I see that you joined us. What do you got to say?
What's going on, guys? Sorry, I came in late. My question first is, how is Dallas when it comes to set pieces? Are they a good team with set pieces?
Defending them, they're decent. Taking them, they're okay.
Okay, so if they're just average at best, then maybe I think we can leave. I think Miami wins 2-0, and I'm only saying that because I think this is going to be the toughest test for the team is playing away, and but I think it's doable. Our biggest weakness is by far attacking set pieces. So if Dallas is pretty average when it comes to at least like scoring from corner kicks and other set pieces, if they're just average, then I think they're going to struggle scoring against Miami. I just feel like the team is riding a really, really good high right now, good high of confidence. So I think a 2-0 would be a pretty good one.
I like that. It feels good, Don, doesn't it, to be riding a wave of confidence finally?
Yes, it's been 3 seasons of absolute hell. So this feels really good. And I gotta be honest, I didn't think the team was gonna transition this quickly into the new tactics, to the new way of playing. I mean, the way how these guys are playing, it seems like they've been together since January, and it's been a pleasant surprise.
Yeah, I mean, it really shows that the talent on this team wasn't as bad as we all thought, or at least as how it felt through most of this season. But
Right.
that there wasn't a catalyst to kind of unlock it. And I think tactics, I think Tata has brought um, better ideas on how to get these guys to play philosophically, and that the combination of all of that stuff, the recipe, the witch's brew, whatever, has really tightened up and really let these guys show and flourish. And yeah, and I think
Oh my God.
Tata said it today. Tata said it today that he's like, we got to get the defensive side. We got to tighten that up. We got to strengthen that a little bit, and then we'll be flying. And I fully agree. I mean, Christoph, Kamal Miller, like they're playing well, but like you said, defensive set pieces, I mean, that has been an Achilles heel of this team, for 3.5 seasons. And we were victimized by that, last night as well. So, you know, once we can fix that, and there are reinforcements coming, but I think tactically and training that stuff, with some time, that will get better as well. But yeah, I mean,
Right.
this happened real fast.
Right, and this is just the beginning. Like it's not even our final form. Think about it. We still have
I know.
we still have Multi and Gregory like recovering. Imagine those guys were playing. But also, I
Well,
mean,
imagine what this team is going to look like with an off season.
right? No, it's
you
gonna be
know?
great. It's gonna be great, and it's a lot to look forward to. But yeah, I don't know if some of you guys were able to see the video I posted on my Twitter. Um, how the guys are playing. They made 35 straight passes, and it was that tiki
Oh
taka ball.
yeah,
I mean, that was
yeah.
it's so refreshing, but also shocking because we're not used to seeing that. We got so numb from the jihad ball that plagued us for the last 2.5 seasons. So it was a lot of good stuff happening right now. So yeah, definitely feel more confident.
So your prediction is 2-0.
Yes, 2-0.
Okay, we'll lock you in for that. All right, Trav, what are you thinking?
I'm thinking I'm gonna go 3-1. We go back to back with 3-1 victories. I think that Jesus Ferreira finds a way to get a goal, but that Miami's just an endless amount of power up top. It leads them to another multi-goal victory, and they frankly cruise their way into the round of 16, where they will play, I believe, either Charlotte, Cruz Azul again, Houston, or I would need to look at it. I think it's Charlotte or Cruz Azul we would play again. So
And we would be back, and we would be home no matter what, no matter who wins that match.
No matter who we play, we would be home. And just look, it would be against either Charlotte, Cruz Azul, or Houston, depending on who wins the Charlotte against Cruz Azul match, and then who wins against Houston. Miami would host no matter what, due to the fact that they were higher in the 2022 standings than both Charlotte and Houston. And MLS teams host Liga MX teams no matter what during this tournament.
Nice. Very, very nice. Well, anything else, Trav?
No, I think we've covered it. We'll make this a shorter episode as we continue to recover from the high of last night, and as I recover from my $500,000 purchase of a house and a commitment to South Florida made earlier today.
Congratulations, by the way, on that. Big moves. Big
moves.
It feels nice, doesn't it?
Oh, it does, until a hurricane hits and I'm taking whatever hair remains out.
Well,
Congrats, man.
Let's hope that you don't have to worry about that for a few years at least. But yeah, man, it's exciting, and I hope you have a nice bottle of bubbly that you can pop, to christen the ship tonight.
Oh, I already did, in the form of a pitcher of beer from Flanagan's.
Gotta go with whiskey, my man.
I'll hit the wheel bottle probably next weekend when I'm fully moved in.
All right, I got one question for you. What's your Flanny's order?
Half rack ribs with 6 hot wings and then regular fries.
That is for those uninitiated, that is a true South Floridian there. Acceptable answers in addition to that would be the Bahamian burger and rib rolls, but you got to get the ribs and you got to get the fries, and the wings are phenomenal. I miss Flanagan's so much.
Yeah, I mean, exactly.
With me, it was the chicken nachos. I had to always go with that for some reason. But then again, I was pretty much like halfway drunk anyway. So
fair enough. And there's no other way to experience Flanny's. And if you're not local South Florida, you gotta check out Flanagan's. Probably, just one of the staples of being a Floridian is enjoying Flanagan's.
It's a true institution.
Yeah, well, just remember, you don't go there for the food, right? You go there for the food specials and the drink specials. Okay, we're not talking PF Chang's here.
That's true. We're not. All right, boys.
Yeah,
I think
fully agree.
We took this off course.
Oh, I was hoping to talk about Tootsies, but okay.
Well, listen,
next time.
I tried to go to Twin Peaks beforehand, and they were too full, and then I realized it's Bikini Week, so that's why. Well, look it up. Anybody can fact check me. There's such thing as a Bikini Week at Twin Peaks. I'm not sure how that works with OSHA, but so be it.
Well, that's a great recommendation, I would say.
Anyway, before I say anything else and get Trav Chats canceled because, I'm not sure talking about Bikini Week is necessarily allowed. On that note, Inter Miami plays FC Dallas Sunday, August 8th, ? August 6th, close enough. Inter Miami plays FC Dallas Sunday, August 6th at a to-be-determined time, most likely 8 p.m. Eastern Time, in the Leagues Cup round of 16. Reminder, all Leagues Cup knockout matches are do or die, and they go directly to penalties if still tied at the end of regulation. Miami will then face the winner of Houston against to be determined either Charlotte or Cruz Azul, and they will host a quarterfinal match if they make it to the quarterfinals no matter what. On that note, George, how about we finish this with a good old Vamos Miami?
Vamos Miami. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, everybody.